Johnson, and this is Focus on Liberia. Hit it! From Cape Mount to Cape Palmer, Mount Nimba to Atlantic Ocean, Obomi Hills to Boakai, to educate, elevate, and promote. Talk about home affairs, in diaspora, current affairs, reliable information, history, talking about culture, politics, education, entertainment, business, sports, advertisement, articulation. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. From Monday to Sunday.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Focus on Liberia. My name is Dennis Jai, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. In tonight's edition, we're going to be talking about the continual impasse in the House of Representatives. Where do we go from here? Right? The story continues to change. Things continue to happen. We have President Boakai's letter to the Chief Clerk of the House of Representatives. Alexander Benedict Cummings, the political leader of the ANC/CPP, he breaks his silence, commenting on the continual standoff between Speaker Kofa and the so-called majority bloc. We also see that members of the executive branch of government, they are appearing before the House of Representatives, the de facto branch, or some would say the breakaway, or some would say the so-called majority bloc. Where is the executive measure actually stand when it comes to this? Let me welcome Admiral Sharif. Mr. Sharif, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Let me also welcome J. Victor Nambe. Welcome, sir.
Hey, Dennis. It's good to be here.
And Dr. Clarence Pearson.
Thank you, Dennis. It's a pleasure to be on the show tonight. I want to say hi to the panelists and our viewers out there.
We want to welcome all our viewers from across the globe. This is Focus on Liberia, and we are glad to have you. Let's get the show going here. The fight to remove the speaker continues, and we are moving from one. In every day is new development. The budget is supposed to be sent by now to the House, but the president say, and let me paraphrase, is writing the chief clerk and say, I'm not too sure. I'm not, even though I'm supposed to send it this time, but I'm not going to send it. And I'm not even sure what to do. So I will seek legal advice as to how to go about this. Mr. Sharif, we talked about this before. Let's talk about the president's action. Is it a de facto recognition of the majority bloc? Because you should send this communication to the speaker, or that's how he has been. What is happening now? Or is it President Boakai not too out there to really say what he thinks? What's your take on the president's actions?
Thank you for that question, Dennis. The procedure in the Liberian House of Representatives is all communications that come from the executive that goes to the House of Representatives is addressed to the House Clerk. However, in this case, The clerk is not there. I believe she's on sick leave or something. But I believe it is the deputy clerk that is acting as the chief clerk. However, it may interest you to know that the acting chief clerk that I just described here, who is actually the deputy chief clerk, is already on the majority side. So when you send that communication, yes, she will be there to receive it. And so, I mean, he will be there to receive it. And he received it. And of course, he took the communication to the majority block. Because
excuse me, you said the communication to the House should be addressed to the chief clerk or the speaker?
To the chief clerk.
And what's that procedure? Where you have that from?
I think most of the communication that come from the executive, you know, all the communication goes to the chief clerk. It goes to the chief clerk. It goes to the chief clerk. That's the person that handles it. As far as it being addressed,
there's a difference between address to the chief clerk and then going to the chief clerk.
No, I'm coming. All right. So let me maybe explain that part. The addressee, the person that the letter is actually sent to, is the speaker.
Okay.
But in this case, they send it to the what? To the chief clerk. Now,
right.
However, if it is sent to the speaker, it is the chief clerk that receives the communication.
Right.
It is sent to the chief clerk. And of course, it is the chief clerk that will put it on the calendar based on the advice and consent of the speaker. Then, of course, it is discussed. So when this was done, that document was, of course, brought into the group of 43 because that's where the acting chief clerk is now. The minority block, if I should say minority block, does not have any of the clerks of the House right now. And that is the serious situation that we are facing. From what I understand a fortnight ago, that not only that the acting chief clerk is with the majority block, but the chief clerk has also given her support to what? The majority block. And that is the real impasse that we're having. Now, in this case, however, the letter, I believe, was the letter that was written, I believe it was addressed to the, are you talking about the letter that came there today? That was addressed to the acting chief clerk. The letter of November 6th. Is that what you're talking about?
Both letters. There was a letter before because the chief clerk said is sick. So now the deputy chief clerk is taking over. But go ahead.
Yes.
Both letters.
Yes. So those letters were actually addressed to the acting chief clerk. So, of course, when you address it to the acting chief clerk rather than the speaker, then, of course, it goes to the other group, which is really what is going on. However, but there was something major that happened in Monrovia today. The lawmakers actually, the chief of security from the Capitol building was arrested by police and taken to the police station. And, of course, the lawmakers from the minority block went and stormed the police station. Well, they went to the police station. The fellow had not been booked yet, but they went there, they stormed the car, and they removed the chief of security and brought him back to the Capitol. And the other thing that has also happened today is that there was a complete vandalism that took place in the joint chamber of the House, where all those seats that were there that sit lawmakers, most of those seats were broken down. And the group of 43 continued to go in there to have their meeting. However, the other group wanted to force themselves in. Now, there were police officers also seen preventing the minority group from going there to interact with the majority group. So they stay in there. Some of them were throwing pepper spray. The people from outside were spraying pepper spray, and they themselves were spraying pepper spray. So it was a real havoc taking place in that joint chambers today, where a lot of the chairs or a lot of the seats are being removed.
Thank you. And briefly, I wanted you to comment on President Boakai's action. What is he trying to accomplish here?
Well, to be honest with you, the thing about doing nothing is that you have already done something. I think I spoke on this. There is a need for the president to be very clear on his position in this entire embattled House of Representatives already. Because if you continue to say nothing, then it says enough that brings more confusion. Right now, the situation is only getting worse. The idea behind President Boakai not speaking, to be honest, it boggles my mind because I really do not understand it. Whether it is through the advice of his counsel, I am not sure. But I think something should have already come from the presidency about this. If they didn't want this to happen, I can tell you it did not, it would not be happening. But as of yet, nobody is saying anything from the government. They said that's a separate branch of government. What that means, I'm not sure.
Thank you. Dr. Pearson, let's talk about President Boakai's action or inactions and the letters. What does that mean to the whole process or the whole confusion?
Thank you, Dennis, for having me. We need to be very clear on some things. First of all, let me state clearly that some of us are very disappointed in what is happening in Liberia. We are embarrassed with the unfoldings in Liberia. What we see in Liberia today, over the past couple of weeks, demonstrate complete what we refer to, a fragile situation, and there's no sense of leadership in the country right now. And I tell people this thing over and over: when you go outside of Liberia or you talk to international partners or whoever, and ask and someone asks who is the head of the government of the Republic of Liberia, they will say the president, Joseph Boakai. In fact, you wouldn't hear anything about the speaker or the chief justice or the Supreme Court justices. They will say the head of the government is the president of the Republic of Liberia, President Joseph Boakai. And I do not say this to disregard the fact that we have three branches of government and they have separate functions. But we understand that the presidency is the lead to governance in Liberia. And if we have these things occurring, we are not saying the president should come up in full glare of public view and try to usurp the powers of the legislature, whatever the case is. But he should be proactive in how he drives solutions to the problem from the back, And I think that when my frustration comes in, I just want to talk briefly about letters. When we see the letters going back and forth, one of the things I'm beginning to hear, especially from the so-called majority Black who are acting outside the Constitution of Liberia, suggesting to me like as if to say the chief clerk is an elected position and it's a position above the office of the House, the House Speaker, which is unfounded. The chief clerk is not an elected officer. The chief clerk is not elected by the people to run the House of Representatives. The Constitution, Article 49, is quite clear who runs the House of Representatives. So I know it baffles me when Gafuan cannot submit the budget to Speaker Kofa. It baffles me. And it also baffles me again when we come back to see the president writing to say to the legislature that and observe that there is a conflict at the legislature, so I cannot present this budget. I got to go and consult my legal counsel. There's nothing for consultation. The Constitution is clear as to who is the House, who is the head of the House of Representatives. The head of the House of Representatives, Speaker. Whether the Speaker has a quorum or not, he is the Speaker of the House of Representatives until he is removed according to law and due process. He is the one you identify and recognize and send him the budget. How they deal with it? It is a matter of constitutional play. And the legislative play at the House. So I think President Boakai, to be straight to your question, I think President Boakai is exacerbating the problem by his action and that of his actions of his cabinet members that we saw today. What happened? And then I heard Mo Ali trying to give justification that he received a letter from the clerk at the legislature, and he attended the meeting because you were called, and he couldn't go in by regular procedure. But then you also admit that your president wrote, the man who appointed you at his will and pleasure, wrote the same body and told them that I have issues that is causing me to stall the submission of the budget. Then you, who's working at his will and pleasure, submit to one side of the party without consulting with your senior executive. I mean, it's all over the place, Dennis, and I think it's bad for Liberia. Very embarrassing.
Before I go to Mr. Nambwe, the argument is the house operates by quorum. So where there is quorum, there where the house is.
Okay, so then you're talking about Article 33 of the Liberian 1986 Constitution. It says, the House shall meet on a simple majority which constitute a quorum. By our numbers of 73, it is 37. However, the same Constitution provides that the House cannot convene in the absence of the elected Speaker of the House of Representatives, who is the duty presiding officer of the House of Representatives. So the House cannot even have a quorum in the absence of the Speaker, especially when he's available and he is already sitting in and actively functioning at the legislature. So we've seen Speaker Kofa.
Where did it say that
sessions for the past six regular sitting of the House of Representatives and did not have a quorum. And he didn't have a quorum because he's not at work. He didn't have a quorum because few disgruntled individuals who feel to have some beef with him decide to stay out of session. Now, if they have an issue, Article 49 is also clear. If you have an issue with this same individual that you elected, you can remove him for cause. And you should have a two-thirds, a majority to remove him. So what are they telling us?
Thank you.
You know, what are they telling us?
Mr. Nambwe, I don't know if there's what Dr. Pearson is quoting, that they cannot have a meeting without the speaker. They said when the speaker is not there, somebody else should do it. If that person is not there, another person should do it, right? So
yeah.
According to them, they are operating on quorum.
Yeah, but the law is very clear, Dennis, what the absence of the speaker means. It doesn't mean when the speaker is in one chamber and you assemble in another chamber, then he's not there. I don't think that's what the law says. It is very clear. Either he's incapacitated or he's out of the country or something, or he's removed. I think what the president is doing, I think he's undermining. He could have really played a very pivotal role to negotiate this crisis and break the impasse. But I think the way he's throwing his weight into this thing, I think he could compromise his own position. I agree with Dr. Pearson that addressing you made a point. You can address the correspondence to the House through the clerk, but when you address a letter to the clerk, then you in effect you're disregarding the position of the speaker. Look, I've said it over and over. I'm not really necessarily interested in Speaker Kofa as much as we are all interested in the rule of law. There's a reason why we have law. There's a reason why we have structures. Look, the majority of us here, of majority of Liberians, we can assemble at the International Stadium and say, you know what? We are in the majority here. We don't want President Boakai to be our president anymore. Would that cause him to resign? No. There is a process through which we can remove him, either through elections or other means, and not violent. But there is a process. There is a process for the removal of the speaker. Now, having said that, I also have to say, I do remember on October 17th, I think the 43 or so tried to assemble in the chambers of the legislature, and this very representative called today, who is on tape, was the one who prevented them. He had the keys to the hall. So there's an argument to be made. Of course, at the time, the speaker was out of the country, but you don't know what would have happened. Maybe they would have started the proceeding because the speaker, he said he was coming back into the country. I think we all remember the communication. He was chartering a flight or whatever. He told them to hold until 4 p.m. or whatever. So he was coming to the country. They were prevented from going into the hall to do the people's business. Not today again. They resorted to this chaos and this violence, banging on doors and all of that. All along, I have said, I think Speaker Kofa does have a case here. But what we witnessed over the weekend with the vandalism of the hall, and then coupled with what we saw today, I think it also undermines Speaker Kofa's position if he's condoning this act. I think it undermines his own position because his argument has been all along that the rule of law must prevail. Do it by the legally prescribed process. What we saw today cannot fit that definition of the rule of law. You have vandals in the street, vendors in the hall taking over the place, banging and kicking people, threatening people, pepper spraying people, as it was reported today. It's just unfortunate, And so I hope we'll find a way out of this. I honestly, I don't know how. I spoke to some of my legal advisors and friends in Liberia over the weekend, and they said the president, it is practical. The president is looking for where the numbers are, and he could have done that without publicly taking the position that he took. He's submitting the budget. I think the budget has to be acted upon. That's understandable. The speaker doesn't have the majority. The majority is with the 43. They have the 37, which constitute a quorum, but they don't have a leadership. The leadership is elected for a reason. So you have to find a way to elect yourself a leadership, and then you constitute the majority. For right now, what we have is lawlessness prevailing in the country, and something has to be done. And I'm afraid the president has lost the capacity to do that because of some of the things that Dr. Pearson has said. The communication directly to the chief clerk is appointees going to testify, to the 43. Now I understand the president canceled the meeting with ECOWAS. So where do we go? Right now, we are rapidly approaching, a constitutional crisis. If he doesn't understand that, the Senate cannot work if the legislature is in disarray because they work in coordination with each other. Now, they being away from each other for over 5 days, which in itself is creating a conflict. So I don't understand how this president is interpreting what is happening and the way he's getting involved. I worry that he may have lost that ground that he may have had as a leader of the nation to get in there and help to negotiate. This thing could be negotiated. And I don't know how else we're going to break the impasse. Kofa is clinging to his position. He's not going to resign. The 43 are not going to come under his gavel. So where do we go?
Is the president playing dumb here to say, well, I don't know what to do? Let me get advice.
No, I think he has indicated what he's doing. I mean, his communication to the clerk is a clear indication as to what he intends to do, allowing his appointees to go also and testify under the gavel of the 43. I think he's indicating that he's siding with the 43.
Let me welcome Mr. Jimmy Ismos from the nation's capital. Jimmy, we're talking about the president's actions or inaction and how it pertains to the ongoing impasse in the House. What is President Boakai trying to accomplish here?
Wow, that's an excellent question. And first of all, I'd like to beg your indulgence for just coming on the program. Something had to get in my way. But notwithstanding, these things are so important to us. I have a strong belief that we are witnessing the disintegration of our laws and our respect for rule of the Constitution in our country. I say that because we are knowingly disregarding the courtesy that we have to render each other for us to have a civil society. It is not unknown that for us to govern, we have to respect one another and respect the rules by which we agreed to undergo for elections and democracy. When we take advantage of the fact that we are not forced to do such and take ourselves to another level of rebellion, then we're beginning to see the beginnings of chaos amongst ourselves. And once chaos breaks out, it is going to be difficult to reel that in. We've seen that when chaos broke out in 1990 and subsequent years after that. And for us to now disregard the rule of law that we agreed to adhere to, it is difficult to see. We all know that this fight they are fighting is not for democracy. We all know that this fight they are fighting is not for the Liberian people, but it's a power struggle. It is, and actually, it's tangled with greed and desire for some material gain. But we allow ourselves to masquerade this as a political battle. There's nothing political about this. We have a legislature, a house, specifically a House of Representatives, that had agreed to be under Councilor Fanatic Kofa and leadership as Speaker of the House. And few months later, we said that he is practicing unfair and undue legal action by representing entities that he should not be, by expending budgets that he should not be doing. But the fact remains that we were aware of this prior to electing him as Speaker. So 9 months later, if not 10 months later, for us to be at a point where the House is no longer functional simply because of opposition to his being there, shows that we do not really respect or regard the rules we agreed to play by. And so what we're going to see, what we are witnessing in our very eyes, in real terms, is the disintegration of our laws. And this will have fruit. In other words, people disregard our laws. People are going to disregard those who are elected. What they don't see is that they are undermining their very authority. Their very authority is being undermined. But they think it is only Fanatic Kofa they are undermining. But they knew who they were getting. They knew what they were doing. The discrepancies were overlooked, and the bribing and the mal actions were all considered normal. And today, here we have this united legislature where we are seeing the disintegration.
Dr. Pearson,
in our Constitution.
Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you, Jimmy. Dr. Pearson, Councilor Fanatic Kofa ran to the Supreme Court and prayed for a prohibition against what he termed as illegal meetings of the 43. The Supreme Court declined to issue that prohibition. In effect, what the members of the 43 are saying, I interviewed the representative from Maryland County. He said, well, when the Supreme Court decided to decline issuing that prohibition, in effect, they are saying what we are doing is legal. So that's what they are holding on to. Does he have a point here?
No, Dennis, he does not have a point. And I'll tell you why. I must state clearly, like Jimmy alluded to, and others, even Mr. Nangwe did. Listen, we're not supporting Fanatic Kofa when we are having this discussion. We're concerned about the rule of law. We're concerned about the respect for the Constitution of Liberia. So you can have all you want on Fanatic Kofa. You can have all of the allegations and the claims and counterclaims. We're just saying there are procedures laid out in your rules and in the Constitution as to how to address your dissatisfaction with your speaker. Now, coming to the Badu and others, no, the senator in Maryland mentioned. Listen, I listened to a former Justice Cabinet Janet. Cabinet Janet was on one of the sister networks yesterday, and being who sat on the bench before mentioned that in their school of thought, when you present a petition such as a writ of prohibition, praying for a writ of prohibition, there are a couple of things that can happen. Your prohibition can be denied, and the reason for the denial will be provided. Another, and he said also, if the judge do not want to deny your prohibition, the justice do not want to deny your prohibition, they will decline to grant it, which does not mean denial. And there's a clarity as to why he couldn't deny it, but he could politically decline it, apparently giving room to the chaos we already have in the country. Now, let me say this, Dennis. There is a precedent in the Supreme Court with the issue of Edwin Melvin Snow and the same situation that we're discussing. And the ruling on that Melvin Snow case is clear, and laws, even at the Supreme Court, is based on precedents. It's based on precedents. So the judge could have simply referred them to the existing, ruling as per the case of Edwin Snow and other members of the House of Representatives in the same act of trying to remove a speaker. Now, what we're hearing a cabinet Janet, Justice Janet said was this. He said, listen, what happened when we went to the conversation was that the guys are saying they were not trying to remove him. They have issue with him and they want to raise their concerns. It's not necessarily wanting to remove Speaker Kofa. So the man said, you go back and you're going and handle your issue. And so he declined to stop them from going ahead with what they want to do. Now, with the understanding that these guys who feel they have an issue with their speaker will go into the regular session and put their case on the floor. And Cabinet Janet, who is representing Speaker Kofa and the minority, said clearly that we agree with the understanding that when these guys go to the chambers, like Mr. Eastman was mentioning, despite all the chaos that happened on, I think, the 7th or the 6th of last month, they were waiting for the guys to develop the agenda themselves and to make sure that the agenda will not be hindered from them putting their case on the agenda and raising their case at the beginning of the session. And they agree, according to Cabinet Janet, Justice Janet, that for Nati Kofa, having heard their case as the presiding, will recuse himself according to due process. And then the deputy speaker, who is also, there's a complaint against him also now, as we're hearing now, because he's conflicted, will have to recuse himself as well. And then somebody will be selected among their peers to go and preside over the argument. But this is the point, Dennis. These guys are not concerned about going to the regular session to raise a case because they do not have 49 votes to remove the speaker. So they're pivoting here and there. They're holding the country hostage, and they do not have the 49th vote to remove the speaker. So whether they make this formal or they do not make this formal, they do not have a case under the law. So they're saying they're going political. And that's why we're saying they're holding the country hostage. And that's why we're saying, Dennis, and this is bad for Liberia.
Thank you. And you can take politics out of it. But Mr. Sharif, we saw the Minister of Internal Affairs. We also saw the Water and Sewer MD going to before the 49. Where does that leave Speaker Kofa and his minority group?
Listen, Dennis, what happened in Monrovia today is nothing short of a despicable horror of legislative embarrassment. It was bad, and really, it should not be like that. Clearly, there is a problem in the country, but the problem is also coming from both sides. Yes, we agree that the process has not been perfected in the removal of Funati Kofa. And until that number is acquired, there is really a serious problem in removing him. Now, in the case of Speaker Snow, back, I believe, in 2006, that my brother Pearson was referring to, they necessarily did not have the number to remove Speaker, what's his name? Mr. Snow.
No.
He resigned. Mr. Snow resigned, giving the room for somebody else to step in, which was Speaker Tyler. Tyler was there for another maybe 9 years or so. And of course, he also fell off and the people went against him. That was a very tough fight. And he resigned. And I am not suggesting here what Speaker Kofa should do. But clearly, there is a group of lawmakers that are saying, under no condition are we going to sit under your gavel. There is a stalemate, ladies and gentlemen. This is nothing short of what I would describe as a political quagmire. Because it's like there is no solution. Now, go to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court, as in other cases, would normally not want to decide on legislative politics. Because the way they handle the affairs of the legislature is not something I believe, in my limited mind, that the Supreme Court really wants to get involved in. Number one, when Mr. Kofa first went, or Councillor Kofa first went to the Supreme Court, there was a stay order that was issued. Nobody obeyed that. Everybody continued to do just what they wanted to do. We came back. And of course, the Supreme Court says, listen, let's go, you'll go back and try to handle this thing, but we are going to decline to do anything here. In layman terms, let me just put it in layman terms. Mm-hmm. And they go by. Now, the situation is even worse, where people are pepper spraying each other, where people are wearing different kinds of t-shirts. Some people are going against one another. What have we come to? Yesterday in the news, there was ECOWAS representatives were supposed to come to Liberia to intervene. But to be honest with you, I don't think this is a problem that they themselves can solve. But before they could even get there, the government issued a memo that they will not be meeting with them. So what do you do? There is a need for all of these people to come together. Maybe the government itself should be involved. And this is why I'm saying the government needs to be involved in not taking side in trying to resolve this stalemate. We can sit here and blame each other or blame the other group, but there is a serious problem. But until the government can come together,
well, Mr. Sheriff, who are you?
Continue to go on.
I beg your indulgence, Mr. Sheriff. Who are you referring to as the government? Because
the executive. I'm referring to the executive. The executive will step in, headed by the president. The entire government is headed by the president. The president now needs to step in and try to find a way to resolve this. Because right now, the law says the budget should be presented to the House as early as October. And by December, the budget should pass. We are in November. We are in the middle of November this week. Is that going to happen? No. And the next thing you're going to look is going to be January. And it's going to be like that for how long? I don't know. But somebody needs to come up and do something.
Yeah.
But the president has done something already by not sending the budget, saying, well, I don't know who to send it to, I'm paraphrasing. The president had also written the chief clerk and say XYZ instead of the speaker. The president has also allowed his ministers, those that are working with him, to go and appear before the House of Representatives for the three. So in that case, the president had actually taken a side. Do you agree?
Let me go back to that. When the House of Representatives cites government officials, they do not necessarily go to the president and ask him for permission. They go. In my experience, you have to appear. In my experience, you don't have to go back and call the Ministry of State, should I go or should I not go? If they call you, you appear. So that one is clear. How that was done, I cannot explain it to you. Okay? Because you have the clerk, who are the what? The nerve center of the House of Representatives. They are what? Receiving all the documents on behalf of the House. They are already with the group of 43. So who are they going to communicate with when it comes to legislative issues as far as the minority is concerned? Who do they even send communication to? Because the other people have already taken side. And the other group, the clerk, they are actually elected. They are not elected by the country per se, but at beginning of every legislative year, like in this 55, the beginning of the year, all the clerks get together and they elect one leader. And that person becomes what? The leader of that group until that term is over. So it's not somebody that even the legislature do not have the power to remove that person. But these people have also taken their side. So where do we go?
Where do we go, J. Victor?
Yeah, I mean, Dennis, look. First of all, let me speak to the apparent interpretation by the 43 of the Supreme Court justice declining to entertain the writ of prohibition or even the writ of mandamus. I think what the court is saying basically that this matter is a political question. There's no justiciable matter here. There is no matter here for them to make any ruling on. They're sending it back for them to say. It's a political question. The Supreme Court, the judiciary cannot intervene in a matter of this nature, respecting the three coordinated governments, branches of government. So I think it's a misreading of the government of the court position to say, yeah, the court said we have the right to go ahead. No. But I agree with Mr. Sheriff here. I think the government could have been the adult in the room, but the way they're conducting themselves, they're losing that credibility. This is a political question. Kofa has his rights. The 43 have some rights, and I think I have to give them credit today. I saw something written somewhere where I think they now constituted a committee of 7 that will now draw up the instrument to begin to give Kofa the due process that he deserves. That's what we are asking. Set up a committee, invite the man, read his charges to him, give him the opportunity to defend himself, and bring your 49 people in. If you want to vote him out, bam, the case is closed.
And that's the problem, right? So that due process, it means Kofa have to go and appear before them in their own chamber. 49. I asked Representative Austin B. Taylor today. He said they cannot go and sit before Speaker Kofa because he's going to drive the agenda. His people will set the motion, they will approve it, and they will have no say.
Right. Dennis, this is progress. You understand me? About a week ago, we were not even talking about a committee, or we're not talking. We heard a family all over the networks saying there will be no due process, whatever it is. But I think they're slowly inching towards, the sweet spot that we all want, where they will all be able to sit together in one place and get on with the business, whatever they want to do, but do it in the confines of the Constitution. So if Fonati Kofa is aware of these people, these vandals who are going and disrupting, he needs to call them in and rein them in. They need to cut it out, because they're undermining whatever little ground he had that he could still use to bargain. He already began to erode that when he got out there and started mudslinging and calling these people.
Is this distinguished Mr. Nangme calling these people vandals? Are you calling these people vandals?
Jimmy, what I saw on tape today that Marvin Coe and others did, I can't describe them in any other term other than vandals. Those are hooligans. Wow. Yes, and I think if Speaker Kofa wants anything out of this matter, he needs to rein them in. He needs to tell them to knock it off. Let him go through the process. Even if Kofi is removed, he retains some semblance of credibility and he could live for another day and continue his political life. But if he allowed these people to continue the way they are, I think he will be roundly rejected because, Jimmy, a lot of people died from senseless violence that was introduced in the political space. Our people right now, I think they roundly abhor any semblance of violence. And these people coming into the place, they're bringing pepper spray, breaking chairs and banging on doors and all of that. It is uncalled for. They need to get it out of the space. So let him get himself ready. This is politics. Let him find his 49. Let them find their 49 and let him go through the process and get this question off the table. I think that's what we've all been calling for.
Dennis, can you give me 30 seconds? I want to
give Jimmy 30 seconds.
Okay, no problem.
Yes, Mr. Name, have we not witnessed this before? I remember keenly after the coup in 1980, all the student unions throughout the country, D12, you name it, they were all having their own coup d'etat, opposing authority. Are we not now, in our new dispensation, giving a precedent so that we do not have to obey our Constitution and our laws? Will we not see replication of this same rebellious act throughout the country? In other words, are we not saying the beginning of chaos in our country?
Jimmy, history is what teaches us as we look to the future. I think we've seen where this kind of ugly. So I agree with you. In the 80s, we had a coup in Tottenham High School when I was there.
That's right.
We had a coup in Tottenham High School when I was there. Musa Deen, who was the recent past justice minister, he was our justice minister then. We had a coup. So yeah, it was fashionable then. There were coups all over the continent. That all over the continent. But yes, we have learned and we've seen what that kind of path to power can produce. We have 250,000 people or so to attest to that. We have a country right now that has been balkanized and cannibalized, and in all kinds of ways that we're still suffering from. So now we know what that kind of path to power produces, and we're not advocating for that. We are rather rejecting that now, Jimmy, because we know now that it does not ever get us the result that we desire. So these people who are banging on doors and swearing nobody coming here under that, they need to rein them in. They need to get them out of the system. Let them get out of the way. If Speaker Kofi is aware, if he knows where they're coming from, he needs to call them in and tell them, look, this is not what I signed up for. They need to cut it out.
Like Dr. Pearson, there were serious issues raised against Councillor Funati Kofa. They talk about the speaker is significantly conflicted with interest, which is impeding the smooth function of various committees. They're talking about the agency of National Fisheries, Aquaculture, Telecom, and all those are the people he's representing, and those are the same people they are having oversight over. They talk about his selection to the Equals Parliament, how that contravenes their rule, that's rule number 40. They also talk about the speaker's budget, as when he was deputy speaker, that became balloon. He used more money that was appropriated. These are serious charges. Why are we not talking about them?
Thank you.
So here's the thing, right? Imagine, Dennis, that the Justice Department of any country saw a crime being committed and contaminated the crime scene and gather evidence in the wrong way. If you went to court and adduce the pieces of evidence that you have, you may have a case and the criminal be right in front of you, but the criminal will walk. The criminal will walk because the law provides as to how you gather evidence and how you adduce evidence. That's the reason why the in-courts if you're not careful how you prepare your case and you go to court, the criminals, the murderer or whoever, they walk away. I want to say something that Nangwe said earlier. Now, look, Mr. Nangwe, it doesn't make no sense to me that those 43 guys who do not have a legitimate legislative setting will set up a committee to go and adjudicate an investigation on a case against the presiding officer who is the speaker.
Let me stop you right there. According to them, the House operates on quorum. So wherever there is quorum,
I'm coming. That's what I'm coming to.
Okay.
The RSC. That's what I wanted to come to earlier when he made mention. He thinks it's a good step forward. When Samuel Doe destroyed our constitutional government at the time, and they set up that kangaroo court that put 13 men on the poll, was that legitimate? Wasn't that some of the things that got us to where we are today? You cannot hijack the Constitution and notify it and set up your own kangaroo arrangement and effect rules and laws. It doesn't work like that.
But how do we, Dr. Pearson, walk me through this? How do you imagine the due process for phonetic COFA to be provided?
No, I can tell you it is in the Constitution. They had to first introduce it. They had to make a complaint to the very Fonati, and he had to recuse himself from the discussion of the case.
Yeah, but they all have to come together. I mean, I hope we're not assuming here, Dr. Pearson, that the 7-man committee are going to invite COFA to say with the 43. I hope that's not what they intend to do.
No, that's what they intend to do. That's what I was told.
Yeah, that's going to be complicated, but hopefully they'll find a way out of it. But the problem
okay, after you will learn my thoughts.
Okay. No, I'm saying I'm hoping that eventually they will find that space where the 43 and the 30 will be able to come together and, of course, do what Jimmy is describing. That's what the rule says. They will come together. COFA will call them in session and then recuse himself.
I think that's the problem, right? Because that's where the standoff is. Where do they do this? The 43 are saying, hey, where we are, that's the house. Yes. COFA doesn't have a quorum, so that needs not to exist. So whatever they're going to do regarding due process, they are going to do it in their chamber of 43.
Exactly. They evaded going first to COFA or presenting it first in the entire Congress. They evaded that and decided that they will go in a separate Congress and begin to adjudicate this whole process.
Jimmy, Dennis, may I remind you again, as students of politics, you know we all begin at certain positions. Eventually, we all inch to the center. Let's be reminded that about a week or so ago, these guys were not even talking anything about a due process for Nati Kofa. But here we are. We're not talking about the possibility, and I'm sure somewhere along the way, we will find a way for us to sit down and do this thing amicably.
Is that true? Is that true, Fit?
Let me learn, Dennis. Let me learn.
Speaking Bible now.
Yeah. So Dennis, Dennis, where I was driving to is this, right? You know, it's like we have a group of supposedly responsible people, people who we saw fit in our society to represent the vast majority of the people. We sent you to a house. What we know, you guys go there every day. Your behavior is notorious. We all know that. We see their sessions every single day. It's notorious for what they do there. So we are not saying that these are guys who's sitting on bed of roses. No, they're not. The House of Representatives is a house of conflict of interest. And we all know that President Boakai initially wanted the dominance of the House of Representatives.
That's correct.
We went to the Supreme Court to get that. He didn't get it. He tried to lobby people with money through coupon. He didn't get that. So we can obviously see it is a third attempt to still get what he still wants. So his actions in his letters and his cabinet is showing us exactly that the same card they are trying to play, but in another hand. What am I saying? You cannot come and undermine the legitimate body of the House of Representatives and say, now we undermine you and say, come down to us and answer to us. Like the LACC have said, there is allegation that you guys took bribery to carry on this stuff you guys are doing. So we're investigating. Then they called the very people that said they gave them money and said, come, let us investigate. Answer to us that we gave you money. How does that even sound? So if they even set up a committee to investigate COFA, what happens to the 30 lawmakers in the official section? What happened to them? Are their representation felt within the 43? No. So it would be the accuser trying to investigate the accused.
I think we'll take it one at a time.
I want admin to chime in, because we also have the investigation that the LACC announced almost a month ago about the bribery.
Right. Yeah.
Where are we with that now?
Exactly.
The investigation is premature.
Taking it one step at a time, Dennis. Let's decide the leadership question first, and then
no. I disagree with you completely.
Independent of the
Mr. Nambi, I disagree with who becomes the speaker. Will not matter if we have corrupt, compromised individuals representing us. It will not matter who is the representative. What we need to deal with is to remove the cancerous cells that the corrupt individuals who are subject to bribes and bribing. We need to remove them first before we even proceed.
But the process to remove those jimming is not available. They have to remove them. They have to expel themselves. Right now, that's what the
question I'm asking Sharif is that LACC, if a crime is committed, it really doesn't matter who's speaker, who's not speaker. You should investigate and punish the people. So bribery is a crime. Mr. Sharif, where are we with this bribery allegation?
Well, Dennis, to be honest with you, LACC would be very worried about taking this case. As you can already see, there is nothing that has really come from them. And not that maybe I doubt them in any way, but they have not said anything about it. But I believe the way the legislative politics works in the first place, this case has to be adjudicated within the House of Representatives first. Now,
what's about the criminal case?
Well, it has not reached that part yet. They have to first of all find them guilty, or whoever those people are. They have to find them guilty in the House.
And who's supposed to do that?
The House.
No, the House doesn't judge criminal cases.
No, it has to be. It has to be investigated.
The House now has to invest. Dennis, this is not. It's not going to court yet. The House now is getting to the point where they have a complaint against one of their members. They have put these complaints together, which they want to go in, look at those complaints and look at the merits and demerits in each.
No, I get that. I'm talking about the allegation of bribery.
But that's what I'm talking about. The allegation of bribery. It is their own co-workers or their fellow members that are accusing the speaker of bribery. But
the whole 43 is accused of bribery.
The 43 said they received money, 10,000 should be 25,000, so they can remove the speaker. That was the bribery allegation.
I thought you were talking about the accusation.
Dennis, look, I hate to say it, but right now the question of bribery.
I want Sharon to end.
Listen, the whole legislature is, like I said earlier, it's an embarrassment. Okay, the very thing that you are accusing one person of, but then you are also enticing others with money to come and do things that you want them to do. And even with that, you still can't get the number. So the question of those people bribing, I think it's a serious case. Whether it needs investigation, I think it really needs investigation. Whether it will be done, that remains to be seen. I don't know how far that would go. Because I can tell you, I think there are just much bigger and magical hands behind this whole thing. And I don't see anything coming from outside to just get inside. But
Mr. Sheriff, don't you think this is an existential question? The fact that we have a corrupt representation the fact that it's inherently, the bribes have been inherently passed out for the election of a speaker, the removal, the fact that this is going on, do we not see a implosion of our democracy?
It is worse than an implosion, and that is exactly what we are saying. And for our people in Liberia, people believe in this justice system where they believe that the end justifies the means. That kind of a Machiavellian talk. But to be honest with you, it has done nothing but really corroded the very fabric of the little moral decency that we have in that society. But the problem is they are all doing the same thing.
I have to agree with Mr. Sherry here. I have to agree with Mr. Sherry here. Look, quickly, I know you want to move on, but let me agree with Mr. Look, the question of bribery, as repugnant as it is to the functioning of any vibrant democracy, but it has been normalized in our legislature. We know that. It will be dealt with later on, but right now it is secondary. I'll be honest with you. We have to settle the leadership question and get it off the table. Yes. Then, of course, we can go down and begin to, do the bribery thing. But for now, I think the number one objective now is to settle the leadership question in the House. I think that would be serious. This is a serious matter. We will get to it, but right now, let's order our approaches.
No, but we can walk and chew gum at the same time, right? Because the people elected representative, they didn't elect speaker. Speaker is their own internal thing. So yes, I believe that should be secondary. But if a crime is alleged to have taken place, our law enforcement should get behind that.
That is not going to happen.
How that's not going to happen when you have the house in disarray, Dennis?
You don't need the house together to investigate a crime. We don't need that.
In Liberia, that will not happen. Because, listen, what is happening? And in fact, one of the members went and did a recording of how much he received. The only thing that was missing in that video was who actually, he called the names of those that gave him the money, but the actual conversation where he received the money, that part was not recorded. So we have seen all of this information, how they were promised $25,000, but in the meantime, we gave you $15,000. There is a lot of smoke in there. There's a lot of smoking gun in there. However, I don't think anybody is going to really look at that from the legislature right now. I'm just giving you my own experience in what it would take in Liberia. They will not do it.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are just joining us, this is Between the Headlines. We are discussing the impasse at the House of Representatives. Continues. Where do we go from here? This takes us to Mr. Alexander Cummings, the political leader of the ANC. Ever since his failed attempt to become president of Liberia, he's been silent. Well, with the ongoing saga at the House of Representatives, Mr. Cummings have gotten up and he says something. I want us to look at what Mr. Cummings said. He said, for about a month now, our country has been engulfed in a looming political and constitutional crisis, which has serious negative implications for our fledgling democracy and the socio-economic development of the Liberian people. He said the House of Representatives has been locked in what appears to be an internal power struggle that has potentially placed the entire legislative function of the government in a state of operational paralysis. He continues somewhere, he said, despite the advice of the Supreme Court, through a conference of the parties held recently in the Chamber of the Justice to amicably resolve the crisis in keeping with due process, both sides remain adamant and docked in their respective positions. Mr. Cummings concludes, and this is a long letter, he said, against this background, we urge all parties to the conflict in the House of Representatives to put the interests of the country and the Liberian people high above any and all other considerations by seeking recourse through the Constitution and laws which they have sworn on oath to uphold and defend. Jimmy, you read Mr. Cummings' piece. Yeah. What do you make of it? What is he trying to do? Is he taking a side, or is he saying everybody wrong or everybody right? What's your understanding?
Yeah. I appreciate that question. I appreciate that question, Dennis. But I like to say this may be a point a reflection point in our dispensation, our political dispensation, because in several instances there has been a dissolution of legislative bodies. For example, in 2024, President Emmanuel Macron dissolved the National Assembly after his party performed poorly. So Macron called for new legislative elections aiming to establish a mandate. So in other words, if you find your legislation is not functioning properly, they're not representing the people, let's have a whole new election and bring about new people. Okay, that way you can. You can.
That's 2029, Jimmy.
Excuse me. No, you can do it before. There is no clause. There is no clause there. We need a clause. What I'm saying now, we need a clause that if these people behave so poorly as we see them behaving, we need to be able to dissolve it and get rid of all of them. Then they wouldn't behave so much. So let me go back. Let me go to the question where Mr. Cummings is involving himself. Unfortunately for Mr. Cummings, he might be theoretically correct, but practically what he's saying will not have any effect on the governance of our country, because as far as they're concerned, he only gathered 1% of the total vote. So he doesn't have any gravitas. He doesn't have any bearing to even to make a comment. The thing, what we need to do is to establish a rule that we can get rid of these guys when they behave the way they're behaving. These guys,
like recall election.
Yes, these guys should be subject to the will of the people. And if they behave in such a way, all of them, we can dismiss all of them, and we have completely new elections and like different officials. The reason why they are sitting on us, they sit on top of your head and tell you say your hair stink. The reason why they're doing this is because we have no recourse to get rid of them. The behavior they took $45,000 each, bought themselves new. Wait a minute, they took. Before buying themselves, they say they will go to work in Keke because they didn't get their $45,000. First of all, they held the whole country at ransom. Next thing they're doing, they say they're having this palace coup within the legislature. These guys are taking undue advantage of Liberian people. We need to have a method, a mechanism to dismiss all of them summarily so that they will never think about doing what they're doing right now. But until we do, we will see this thing happen again and again and again.
Dennis, a second.
Okay.
Yeah. Brother Ismail, what you are saying, you're making some really good points there, but our democracy is
not practical, right?
Yeah, it's one they call the Republican system of government. There are three equal branches of government. To remove a lawmaker, like here in America, you have to go to get 2/3 majority of your peers to remove him. That's the only way they can do that. Have they done that here in America? Yes, they have removed people. In fact, they have expelled people. Recently, what's the name of the guy from New York, the Brazilian guy? He was literally removed from Congress. That can be done. However, in this case here, and our system is not where the president can decide to remove or just cancel the entire legislature. We don't have that. That's in the different system of government. So that's not even applicable here. What we need to do, we need to lock up all of these people in one room so they can agree and come up with a new leader that they can all work with. Maybe that can probably work for
I don't know how we'll do that, but let's back to Mr. Cummings. Let me go to Dr. Pearson. Somebody may ask, where has Mr. Cummings been all this time? What would you say?
Well, he's on sabbatical. But you see, Mr. Cummings is my own political leader, and I applaud him for the letter, which suggests how grave the situation is as we see it. But I think this is where some of us have said on the flip side that there's not much leadership in our country. If I'm not mistaken, I think CPP has a couple of lawmakers in that 43 disgruntled, renegade lawmakers. I think CPP should have at least 2 or 3 lawmakers among those guys.
They do.
If I'm not mistaken. And I think President Boakai, who
CPP doesn't exist anymore.
Huh?
CPP doesn't exist.
No, I'm saying they got the power on the influence of the CPP. So CPP
And that's what happened to political marriages. They don't last. Just like celebrity marriages.
Dennis, this is a very serious matter. And that's where leadership comes. Let me tell you something, Mr. Dennis. If I went back to Liberian District 6, where I grew up in and I'm still connected to, if I get to the area junction right now and sit on the checkerboard, I have people, young people, who surround me, not because I'm feeding them, but because we have some relationship that we built in the past. So leadership at this crucial point in our country, where we're seeing us going back to 1979, where somebody wrote up the Constitution and tear it apart and set out a kangaroo code and say, I will be the law and gospel and send 13 men on the pole. We're seeing this same thing happening now again in the legislature. Leaders should step up. That's what I'm saying.
Is Mr. Cummings showing leadership here?
He has started, and I'm saying he should go a step further. I think he should, if he's in the country, he should call those CPP lawmakers who are amongst the 43 and make them and let him provide them some level of understanding. Gentlemen, what are you guys doing? Why are you guys behaving the way you're behaving? Why are you going the way you're going? You cannot achieve this thing you want to do outside of Article 49. So you cannot hold the country hostage when you cannot get Article 49 achieved. They seem to go for President Boakai, who has influence over Unity Party and the Unity Party alliance. They seem to go for Prince Wild Johnson, who is the MDR political godfather in Nima County. But again, I close by saying this, Dennis. LACC, it baffles me, and we say this all the time on the show. It baffles me how we take decisions that are important, but we drag on those decisions. LACC, this case of bribery in this case should have been one of the everything else should be set aside, and this should have been expedited.
Thank you. This
should have been expedited. And I'm not saying come and say, oh, the guys took bribe. No, but expedited. Come and say, listen, we received the allegations, no bribe happened. Or we received the allegation, and we have evidence to show that bribery happened. By the time we reach to that level, all of these things will be cooling down. Because the diversion will be going towards morality. And the morality and the criminality that they're accusing fanatic that they're leader of, that they don't want to succumb to the Constitution, will bring them back to the table. So
thank you very much.
Yeah, it's buckling. Why is the LACC checking our legs? They said because President Boakai is the executive of the LACC. They said that because the Supreme Court is compromised to President Boakai. Because these are the issues. These are the people that are supposed to put this thing put it in perspective for the Liberian people. Now we have people coming to play their role.
It shows that nothing's working in the country. That's what it really shows. And if I could critique my old schoolmate, and mind you, I know the last time I was critiqued on this platform because I said how I'm close to Alex Cummings. I know him, but he has to be entrenched in everything that's going on in the country. This sort of thing that's going on now, he should be talking a lot about it, not just elections. Not only when you want to win the election is when you're talking. You need to be talking on issues that are affecting the country and the people of the country consistently. Not only when elections are coming up. You have to be on your pulpit all the time, preaching, talking to the people, so they know that you are somebody who is with them on the issues each and every day, not only at elections. And that has been the problem. He has not been entrenched with the people when they're going through these issues like this. He should be entrenched. He should be talking so people can hear what he's saying, understand him, and they say when they reflect They said Cummings been telling us this thing a long time ago. And he has to be in bed with them each and every time occurrences like this happen. And that has been the fault. He has to be 24/7 with the
Let me
people.
go to another CPP man who happens to be, and Cummings come from Maryland. You know, when you ask a, like in the Cummings case, when you ask them, they will speak Gribble. They say, Moko Amole, I would die, I mean, wake up. Right? So,
That
is Mr. Cummings telling us that he would die, that he wake up now? Or
You know what, Dennis? Let me tell you how I reject the fact that you're characterizing me as me a Gribble man. Therefore, I'm supporting Ellis.
no.
Let me reject that. But let me tell you this.
You reject it?
Look, I was a national campaign advisor for the CPP. I'm not a member of the ANC, so I don't advise Ellis Cummings anymore. But I'll tell you this. Mr. Cummings wants to be president. He's not trying to be a legislator. You know, every utterance, every position statement he makes there should be pointed towards pointing out the dereliction of duty by the executive, how the executive is failing. What is it he's talking about? Both sides. What does he have to do with, you know? If I were advising him, I'll be pointing out how this administration is failing to manage this crisis and how this crisis is going to.
But does that surprise you how Mr. Cummings has consistently sat on the fence when it comes to these things?
You know, Alex is a good manager, but I think his politics really need a little bit of sharpening up. I'll be honest with you. Yeah, you have to, in this kind of matter, you can't talk about both sides. You know, you got to take a position. And I think the statement I read, you know, I was underwhelmed by that statement, to be honest. He should have come out in full force against the failure of the executive to manage this crisis and how the crisis is now blowing out of proportion, and catalog the number of problems that could be coming down the road because of their failure to manage the crisis. Yes, I agree with those who say he should have called in the CPP legislator and ran in the riot act. Why? Because the CDC tried to do that and they failed. The UP tried to do that and they failed. Alex Cummings has to show the manager he is by reining in his people and telling them, guys, look, this is not what you're supposed to do. This is how it should be done. Go in there and make the difference. He could have done that, but he didn't do that. So the statement, I don't know what the statement is really going to achieve. I'm honestly, I expected a lot more from him, you know, on this matter. That's not what I saw in that statement.
Remember, you can't executive meeting more, man. You can't executive meeting more.
You know, right now I'm caucusing with the UPP when we kind of legislature one of these days.
That is?
Yeah. My question for you here is, Mr. Sharif, we are really not seeing leadership either from former President Weah, President Boakai, all our politicians or the so-called political leaders. We have not really seen any direction. Mr. Cummings came up and we were applauded. Councillor Tiawon Gongolo said something before, to his credit. Now we have Councillor Mr. Cummings coming up and he's just saying everybody wrong. You're decide, you know.
Yeah, it's like Donald Trump saying there are good people on both sides. Come on, man.
Yeah. Mr. Sharif.
So what's the question?
What is Mr. Cummings showing leadership here? Or, you know, like Boakai, like where we are like Cummings? Is that what we're saying?
Well, I don't want to say like we are like Cummings. No, I would not accept that. But
you got a soft side for we are. That's why.
Here is what I see. Mr. Cummings is probably a very nice man, you know, but the problem that he has had over the years, his connectability, his ability to connect with the Liberian people. Now, like Jimmy was saying earlier, or like Mr. Langbe was saying earlier,
no, I don't want to be in the same category as you know with Jimmy. Please put me in different category. Don't put me with Jimmy.
All right. So let me come to Mr. Langbe for like Mr. Langbe was saying earlier, he has to show a better leadership here by taking a position, because clearly, I don't know where he is, because right now, the time to issue statement, this is not even the time. This is the time for people to actually get involved. Call the people that are directly working with you. Like Dr. Pearson was saying, call the people that are directly working with you. Whoever your lawmakers are, whoever you have the connection with are in it. Make sure you are in touch with them. Listen, on this matter, I really suggest that you take such a position and you try to engage your lawmakers. You can't just leave everybody as a political leader to do whatever they want to do. Then, of course, you are not showing leadership either. But this problem is becoming very, very serious, violent by the day, and this is the time for serious people. But I think Mr. Cummings was just, what like people call rhetoric. It was a nice little speech he wrote there, but it is not really going to make an impact.
And that's what it is. A nice little speech. Tomorrow, all of us will forget about it. Look, a leader, right? You lead, take us beyond the horizon. Stand shoulder above the rest of us. Don't be telling us stuff that we already know. Tell us how you intend to get us out of the situation, or don't say anything at all, right? You come out and tell us how this government has failed to deliver, how it has failed to manage crisis, how it has failed to do this and do that and do that. Paint a picture. Paint a picture. I'm not saying you should go and blow it out of proportion, but paint a picture that the little man will say, you know what? I understand what this man is saying. That this is the potential that could come out of this stalemate. People may not get paid tomorrow because the budget will not be discussed. People may not be able to buy the children's milk tomorrow because they won't be able to take pay. Paint a picture. But when you come out and make a nice, beautiful statement, and blame all sides, we'll all read it and then, we'll put it aside and move on to the next thing.
What we call this is champion the issue. And that has always been the problem. You have to be consistently championing issues that affect Liberian people. If you're not doing that, how you expect them to look up to you? How do you if running an election? No, each and everything that affects Liberia, like this crisis that's going on now, you're supposed to be on the pulpit and telling them this is undermining our entire democracy. There's nothing democratic about what they're doing. It is more political. It is more belly-driven. Condemn them so the people will say, yes, this man is talking something that we can condemn. These people are not in our interest. Let's look at Cummings. That is what he has to do. It is politics, especially Liberian politics, is a 24/7 job, not every 4 years or every 6 years. You have to take a completely different approach. And if he wants to be the leader of the Liberian people, he has to get involved in every issue that is affecting the Liberian people. He has to be the Jesus Christ of the day, talking to the Pharisees, talking to the people that they have to change their ways because this is not going to work. And if you're not going to be that involved, then you don't want the people to elect you. That's what he has to do to make himself known to Liberian people that he's about to affect a change that they're looking forward to.
But Jimmy, you and Victor are saying the same thing.
Thank you.
He said he won't be one category.
He's still trying for us to be in the same category as this guy.
Thank you. If you want to join the conversation, ladies and gentlemen, the number is